أعوذ بال أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Hussein and everybody at GİMDES for this opportunity to discuss this important topic, which is evaluation of GMO technology in terms of Halal and Tayyip. Before I start, I would like to read a fatwa that was issued here in the United States by Sheikh Faraz Rabbani, which in which he says that there's a number of scholarly bodies that deemed GMOs, genetically modified food, as permissible, provided they do not cause harm to humans, animals, and the environment. These include the Majma al-Fiqh al-Islami and Islamic Fiqh of Academy of India and Malaysia. Darul Iftar al-Ulama has also deemed it permissible. Discussions relating to the potential benefits and harms of GMO have been plentiful. The legal opinion that have been discussed about the permissibility of the GMO seldom discuss in detail how harm can be calculated and what levels and extent would potentially make such foods haram, since no such determination are admitted. It's difficult and it requires protracted periods of observation and must account for numerous factors. Nonetheless, we have been commanded to consume food that is not merely permissible but wholesome, which is tayyib. Therefore, discussion on GMOs is not merely one of the permissibility, but it requires more serious and meaningful ethical discussions on how we as a community envisage wholesomeness, which is tayyib, in lifestyle and practices. So before I proceed to the details of halal and tayyib, I also want to share the agri-biotech workshop from Islamic scholars, and there was a resolution on the halal status of GMO and crop made on December 10, 2010. The International Workshop for Islamic Scholars, Biotech Sharia Compliance, jointly organized by the Malaysian Biotech Information Center, MABIC, and International Halal Integrity Alliance, was conducted in December in Penang, Malaysia. The participants adopted a resolution that accepts genetically modified crops and products such as halal ingredients used to develop them from halal sources. With a focus of alleviating existing food problems and poverty in the world today, the international workshops of Islamic scholars and experts on Sharia compliance agree on the following resolutions. Number one, Islam and science are complementary, and Islam supports the beneficial scientific innovations for mankind. Modern biotechnology and genetic engineering are important developments that merit promotion in all the Organization of Islamic countries, members. Regulatory measures should facilitate the acceptance and the use of GMO products, particularly by Muslims. GMO and GM products as halal, as long as the sources from which they originate are halal. The only haram cases are limited to products derived from haram origin, for example, alcohol or pig, that their original characteristics that are not changed. Number two, modern biotechnology and genetic engineering are methods of plant improvement and instinctively are not different from other plant improvement techniques. Number three, ensuring food security Our Islamic obligations require we urge all Muslim countries, international organizations, and research institutions to support research and development and the use of modern biotechnology, genetical engineering, and their products. Number four, because of their positive impacts on agriculture and the urgency of food security, the Muslim Ummah and the promotion of modern biotechnology are considered fardu kafiyah, which is collective obligation, just like when we have janaza for somebody who passes away, and should not be neglected from the Sharia point of view. Number five, public awareness and education of modern biotech and GM demand continuous interaction between Islamic scholars, scientists, and the general public. Number six, and that's the last, transparent and complete scientific information should be available to all the stakeholders for informed decision. This workshop was attended by high-ranking ulamas from Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Iran, Malaysia, Indonesia, and scientists from Egypt and several Muslim countries in the OIC. Then it kicked off with the ulama presenting the principles of Sharia and the concept of halal, followed by scientists presenting the facts of GM technology, how to impact animal, human, and environmental safety, and socio-economical benefit. The resolution was adopted after deliberation between the scientists and the ulama, weighing all aspects and benefits and risk, and the need for technology in Organization of Islamic countries from the bulk of and form the bulk of major importers. For reference, and this I give credit to MBIC, the workshop, it's on their website at bic.org.my. So I go to the next portion. My next portion will be on GMO and halal perspectives, how we bridge the gap between the standards and cooperation and discuss the coexistence on halal principles, concept, and purpose, and propose solutions to establish standardizing practice. First and foremost, the next item is, what are GMO? It is defined as genetically modified organisms. They are living organisms whose genetic material has been altered through biotechnology techniques. Example of GM in crops is like that. It creates higher yield and highlight the in modern agriculture. So, for example, corn, which I'll get into later. The importance of halal signifies what is permissible and lawful under Islamic law, and the halal food with manifestation with ethical consumption and adherence to Islamic principles. The significance of halal certification process in ensuring compliance would require testing for foreign objects and in the products. We at USA Halal and ISWA Halal certification, we use food chain ID, which is well known all over the world, and they are ISO 17065 accredited. Now, the question is, are GMOs halal or haram? The concerns are contamination, which is the risk of mingling GMO and non-GMO during harvesting and transportation. Ambiguity, like we don't know the real details of the ingredients. The challenges of verifying them can be difficult, even with the testing of the labs. And also the ethical and health consideration. Just like some medications we have, they are GMO, like insulin, but we do not know the full consequences and we have the ethical dilemmas on that. So the Muslim dilemma in balancing their desire to provide halal food for their family and with unclear status of GMO in products he encountered. For example, corn with resistant insect that infect the corn weakens the product. Some corn are resistant to insects. They take the high gene of high resistant gene with high protection corn and with the corn with low resistance, and now it is high resistant and with high protection. Then they will yield more, and you'll have double or triple the yield. So halal certification bodies, biotech companies, and regulatory agencies can work together. The criteria is develop precise guidelines for determining halal status and traceability measures to collaborate to prevent cross-contamination. Real-world example are Malaysia's collaboration with biotech firms to produce halal vaccines. The scientific data on GMO safety is substantiated by extensive scientific research for over 10, 15 years now. The consensus is over 1,700 studies has been conducted globally, and they have affirmed the safety of GMOs. Endorsements by authorities such as WHO, FAO, FDA approve GMO consumption. Addressing GMO concerns entails clear labeling and advocate for mandatory GMO labeling. Some of the solutions would be to encourage biotech companies to share development and testing information. The ethical alignment is to promote and develop GMOs which will not conflict with halal principles, particularly the use of halal enzymes and additives. I will get into that later, the enzymes. We have conducted with our Sharia and Islamic affairs experts here at USA Halal and ISWA Halal Certification Department, who are also scientists. I'll go back to the simple and the most common example. Corn-resistant insect, which weakens the product, can be removed. And some corn are resistant to insects. So they take hygiene-resistant ones and join them with the high protection corn with the low resistance. As a result, the corn will become very high resistant and will yield a lot more to feed more people. Okay, another example is soybean. Soybean oil. High protein and high oil is hard to find. It's either one or the other combining the genes. The idea is to have a plant that put good genes and of the other plants into the plant. American scientists have the opinion that there is no harm in GMO supported by major agricultural companies. But some European scientists say that the quick change in the GMO process is not good. Now, they may be in the minority, but it's a fact also. We need to take more time to do these studies. Tayyip means wholesome and natural and do not harm, do not have haram like pork or alcohol. So it will not harm people, and it is safe because it is not poisonous. So if GMO is harmful to human consumption, then it becomes haram. GMO has been in the market for about 30 years. So in 1973, some biochemists called Herbert Boyer and Stanley Cohen developed genetically engineering by inserting DNA into one bacteria into the other. In 1982, the US government, the Food and Drug Administration, approved the first consumer GMO product and developed through genetic engineering, for example, human insulin to treat diabetes. Next is GMO crops that were first introduced in the USA in 1994, about 30 years ago, 29, 30 years. What is the US FDA opinion? This is very important. The studies have shown that GMO do not affect you differently from non-GMO. FDA regulates most human and animal food, including GMO food. In doing so, FDA makes sure that food that are GMO or have GMO ingredients meet the same strict standards of all foods. FDA regulates most human and animal food, including GMO food. In doing so, we make sure that the foods that are GMO and have GMO meet the strict standards as all other foods. And FDA sets and enforces the standards that those who produce, process, store, ship, sell this food must follow, no matter how the foods are created. Lastly, I want to mention about U.S. EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. They are responsible for human health and the environment, which includes pesticides. EPA regulates the safety and the substance that protect GMO plants, referred to as plant incorporated protectants, PIPs, that are some GMO plants to make them resistant to insects. EPA also monitors other types of pesticides that are used on crops, including GMO and non-GMO. Then there is a description on how FDO and EPA and USDA work, and they overlap there. In the middle, they have one agency that covers everything. Now, there is a small video which you can share later. The question comes to how can I tell if I'm eating GMO? Certain types of GMO have a disclosure that lets you know if the food or ingredients you're eating is bioengineered. The National Bioengineered Food Disclosure Standard defines that these foods that contain detectable genetic material have been modified and the lab technicians and cannot be created through conventional breeding. It comes back to the labeling. The standard established requirements for labeling that humans eat, and they may be bioengineered, and defines bioengineered foods as those that contain detectable genetic material and has been modified through certain lab techniques and cannot be created through conventional breeding, that means naturally in nature. The standard requires that by 2022, which is last year, food makers, importers, certain retailers of labeled foods that are must show in their labeling. At that time, food sold in the US meet the definition, must have information in their packaging and using one of the approved methods by the USDA. Now, one of the important aspects of halal certification and GMO, it requires standardization. Standardization for GMO products. By incorporating GMO testing and verification into existing halal certification process, we must partner, the Muslim certification bodies with global halal certification bodies, not only in the US, to ensure the uniformity and acceptance. That is, for example, there are different standards in different countries. We must ensure that there is a uniformity and acceptance of the one global standard. Benefits of cooperation and trust and transparency is good for the consumers and supports ethical consumption. Better understanding, cooperation and cooperation fosters a comprehensive understanding of GMO. Now, cooperation ensures broader range of halal certified products, increasing options for the Muslim consumers. The international standards of the World Halal Council may have different opinions and adulteration of GMO products, so we must advocate for international cooperation and development for universally accepted halal GMO halal guidelines. That is what we have to do next, because this is a new area, it's not normal. Okay, participation organizations would be suggested for have been suggested for OIC countries, the Codex Alimentarius Commission of the FAO, to create these global standards and for halal, SHMIC, GSO, ISO, GCC, EAC, GAC, and all the Indonesian and Malaysian standards. In conclusion, the importance of GMO and halal coexistence is critical for our human needs to feed the world, because we are hungry, we are more people, and we need the food. The four major GMO crops are soybeans, cotton, corn, and canola. In addition, you have sugar beets, zucchini, rice, tomato, potato, alfalfa, peas, etc., etc. The benefits of GMO products included pest resistance, herbicide tolerance, disease resistance, and cold tolerance, drought tolerance, and salinity for the salt. So there are also health risks involved in GMO, like toxicity of the herbicides, effects on kidneys, and female may develop breast cancer tumors. Last but not least, Islam allows and accepts the use of all science and innovation for the benefit of mankind, as long as they achieve health benefits and don't lead to harmful effects. I close this presentation with a consensus with the USA that GMO can be certified halal only after we verify. Then I have some references, and will tell you a little bit more about USA halal in the slide, and I open for any questions you have. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.